welcome back to the final episode of Dead Rising 2 Master Run. This is going to be a big thing right now. I'm really looking forward. This is the final episode. It's been an interesting journey. Right now, all we have left is, I think, a couple items we got to pick up for the overtime mode quest. I talked before in the last episode that it really is just a completely arbitrary task. But you gotta do it to go get the reward of an actually interesting little cutscene and segment of the game. So, I mean, I think this is really the only reason this got included is to have an overtime mode like Dead Rising 1 did. I'm okay with like the stuff after this collection quest, but I don't know. They must have been able to do more than this. Like, I don't know how long it took to make the final portion of the game, but it does seem like maybe they're like, oh, we want an overtime mode, but you want it to be more than like this 20-minute segment, so they just arbitrarily extended the time. It'd be neat if maybe they like ramped up the difficulty or something. Like, what if like every zombie here was a gas zombie? That'd be a thing. Or I talked before, like it'd be cool if they did infinity mode based like mechanics. So like you lose health constantly, you have to eat to keep raising it. But, I don't know. See, it just seems like arbitrary. Oh, there's a USB drive. Was TK really like, go to the underground and go to this exact place and pick up my USB drive? Especially because, like, I mean, what's he concerned about? It must be for, like, some kind of blackmail scheme, because everything here is going to be burned. Unless it's safe. So it's not like he's going to be really concerned about something that's here. So, yeah. Or, like, why does he need a lab suit? What possible use does he have for a lab suit? So, or I mean, at least like, if you're gonna give a quest like this, I'd be fine if they were giving like exposition or dialogue. Like, at points, when you go to the arena, TK will at least talk to you, and that's kind of interesting because he's got unique things to say. If they were like, if he was like reading off stuff about Dead Rising 1 maybe, or about spoilers for Dead Rising 3 that he's gonna kind of lead into, that'd be nice. Be something. But as is, it's like, I was really hoping I could push that off in like kind of like a Sparta kick style, but apparently you just do damage to it. You can't actually push it while it's alive or not destroyed. It's not really alive. It's a car thing, tram. I don't know what to call that. It's a little cart. So I'm looking forward to get to this next section because the first time I played overtime mode, which is like I think the first time I started recording Dead Rising 2, because I missed it on my actual run. I didn't give TK Zombrex because either I couldn't find it or I just like didn't want to. And then I was like, what? You need to do that for overtime mode? Okay, whatever. I thought it was just going to be some dumb decision, which I didn't like at the time. But fair enough. It seems like an annoying, just arbitrary choice to make because you have to go get Zombrex, and if you weren't prepared, it's like, oh, gotta play through the game again. So, yeah. But it's something. I don't hate the fact they had overtime mode because I like this ending part, but I could gripe about this all freaking day. Just like, why did they do this? Why did they do this? Well, my point being is the first time I played this, I died in the final fight, and I didn't save at all. I hadn't saved since it started, so I'll start the whole thing over to go recollect everything. On the bright side, it really helped me understand how the TK fight works, because it has some unique mechanics. He's definitely not like any other psychopath. And you do not want to be low level for him. I don't know what the minimum level is. Like, so say if you went through the game and you literally only did the cases, you didn't kill any zombies. I still imagine you'd have to be a pretty decent level just based off that. Plus you also got all the PP from ending the game in 72-hour mode. So it's not like it's insane. But still, like, it'd be much better if I was level 50 for this fight. As long as you're like above 35, I think it'd be okay. I don't really know the specifics. Like, I still believe that a lot of your leveling is random. That's kind of how it was in 1. I don't know how they do it because, like, some things are still, like, level based. Like, you will get this move at level 35. But other times I knew when leveling up where I would, like, fail and have to reload, it would be the case where maybe I'd get a different martial arts move than I did, or maybe I'd get health instead of a inventory slot. It has some weird thing where it's, like, it's kind of pseudo-random, but I think it probably, like, checks in at different points, if that makes sense. So, like, by level 10, you need all of these things, but what order you get those in is random. So that's my guess. So I mean, if you get really lucky, it's like, I think if they do it that way, it's to prevent something where like, man, you got like, you're really fast, but you only have 3 blocks of, or 4 blocks of health still. In which case it would be a totally different kind of game. That'd be a very suspenseful, very fast-paced game, and that's not how it's like balanced out to be. Or like maybe you just get all like the really annoying ones that don't actually help you. Like, man, I have 3 health and only, or 4 health, 4 inventory. I always miss them up. And then like, I'm not really fast, but man, I have every single martial arts move. Like, that'd be a terrible way to play the game on your first run through. But in theory, it should balance itself out so you don't get screwed on the TK fight. So yeah, TK fight's a little weird. I want to save talking about it until I can actually point out some big things, but you essentially have a time mechanic. He's got a bunch of weird attacks, and you are going to lose all your weapons. Which, I get why they do that, to make the fight a little bit bigger, but it also seems that, like, you have all this time you could be prepping if they let you, but they don't. So, yes. I guess that's just a developer choice. I feel like, if anything, overtime mode probably didn't get that much development time. If anyone knows, like, if they talk about, like, kind of what into it, I'd love to hear their, like, design decisions. Because, again, I don't hate it, but I'm sure there's reasons. Like, I'm totally fine with overtime mode being kind of, like receiving less attention if it meant, well, oh, well, we kind of rounded out the combat, or we were able to make the zombies a little bit better and whatnot. Or maybe it's like that's what let them put in like all those little story details that I mentioned throughout the game, is they worked on that rather than just making a bunch of arbitrary things to add to overtime mode. As you can see, we still have plenty of time, and we're pretty much done with overtime mode. The clock stops as soon as we encounter TK. I'm like trying to multitask, watch this recording, watch the audio recording, watch the video recording, edit some things as I record, and then also think what I'm going to say. I've been getting a lot better. Like, I think some of my first few episodes were just like, just like complete, just like vomiting nonsense. Terrible. I get like too far ahead when I'm thinking, so I just screw myself over because then I jumble it. But basically, the game, like the normal game with time, ends when we enter these doors up here to the arena. So here, I'm just kind of like, I might be able to get a level, because I'm going to lose all these items anyway, so all these like weapons I was holding or food doesn't really help me. I don't think you get a full heal, so you do want to heal before you come in here. So that's a thing. But other than that, you can't really do anything to help yourself in this next fight, unless you can quickly learn more martial arts moves. But even then, none of the martial art moves are particularly great against TK. They're all doable, but it's not like something where, oh, this one just destroys him. It's the same way with the final fight in 1. Like, there's like good moves, but they kind of suck to execute, or easy to execute, but they suck for damage. That's a cattle prod, by the way.
Too late to play it safe, Chuck.
I think a lot of the motivation for overtime mode was that story-wise, TK is kind of a villain, but you're never going to fight him. And I think this is kind of a wish fulfillment, where you're going to take him on one-on-one and finally have that big moment, even though technically it's not canon. Which, I mean, fine, they play him up like he's the big villain the whole time, up until Sullivan reveals himself. So, obviously, at that point, though, then TK's all chained up and it's kind of dealt with. So, this lets you have your big, like, fan outing, I guess. Where you could express your emotions like, yeah, screw TK. So, we're back in the arena. We're up on the catwalks with a ton of zombies down below us.
Better get up, princess. Don't want to waste your last day on Earth sleeping. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Watch Chuck Green's family
See, I feel like they never officially say that like Stacy is supposed to be the love interest, but then they do stuff like this, like how he calls her like his like family and stuff, and they make a little bit of references, but she's so just kind of absent from the story in my opinion. Like you talk to her on the phone on the little radio thing, but it's always one way and it's just about mechanical stuff. Honestly, I felt Rebecca Chang was more of a relevant one, and then they kill her. I think it goes the opposite way in the Frank West version where Rebecca Chang is like your caller and whatnot, and then Stacey Forsythe is just there. So basically we're going to fight him here. There's a crank there we have to turn up in order to raise them. Every so often, if they get too low, you'll lose because they die to the zombies. But TK here is going to be fighting us, and we have just lost all of our items. So we're going to dodge out of the way. There is essentially one central platform and then two kind of square rings around these outside areas. So we're going to want to go ahead and do that. Interesting note is you don't actually take damage as long as you, when he grapples you like that, you don't take damage as long as you do the proper prompts. He does though. So what I want to do is I want to grab a bunch of melee weapons, as much food as possible, and I'm particularly looking for a spotlight. When he can do, excuse me, what TK can do is he can launch these pyrotechnics at you up here. They go in a pattern, so like say they'll go all the way around this ring until they get back to him. You can also climb up on two little walls, and he has a gun he can shoot you with. So you have to be careful for that. But honestly, they do less damage than he does. It's just annoying because it keeps coming. So we're just going to keep kind of dodging this. And then we want to go over to the next area as well. You can use the crank now, but he's pretty much going to always hit you. If you do enough damage, he will hop off and go hide and re-enter the area. So that's generally what you want to do. Generally, Stacy and Katie go down pretty slowly. Stacy and Katie, I don't think I've ever noticed that. But it's pretty obvious here. So there's a spotlight back there. Saw blades aren't too bad, but we also want this spotlight up here. You can put them in your inventory, so I'd suggest getting like 3 of them if you can. They're by far the most powerful weapon here. You would think like the flashlight or the dynamite or the pipe would be good, but they're just like either hard to use or not actually that great. Whereas the headlight is just like a big hunk of metal and just staggers him. It's pretty good. If you get all the food, generally you can go toe-to-toe with him, and that forces him to run away like that, so I can hop up and just spam it as fast as possible. It's a little confusing. I believe you can hit X to get off that, or you can just move your left stick. So again, like, you don't really take much damage if he does that. It's like half a block, so it doesn't always show. Unfortunately, he kicks that. I stop him. You could definitely make an argument where if you knew what you're doing, it would be better to let TK attack you. Because then that way you can always keep him controlled. Because he goes there and you get a bunch of free hits on him. I think, if I recall though, this fight is also kind of less than straightforward with the Katie and Stacy mounts. Like, I think if you get them up really high, then they will start unwinding faster. And as they get lower, they'll unwind slower. To try and always keep you in that like kind of danger zone, but never actually like screwing you over. I think. I've heard about the games. Oh yeah, there's another game that did that where I never got to finish. It was a Metal Gear Solid game where it's like Snake had to go down like an electrified hallway. And it's been meant to be like really cinematic, where it's like press X, you get shocked, like press X faster, then press X even faster, but realistically, someone showed how you could just like go through the whole thing just going like dot, 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 dot. Because it made it think like you did, but really it was just looking for like, are you still there input. It was just a thematic kind of thing to get you like emotional. And that's what overtime is meant to be kind of in general, is like this raised stakes kind of area. But it's not actually that serious in its threat, I guess you could call it. So we're pretty much dominating TK here. If we really needed to, we could go get some more food from these boxes, but we're pretty good. The goal is you definitely want to find the food now before you need it, because if you wait until you do, TK is just going to harass you. And if you're getting kind of behind, I would say just get TK to go run away instead of raising Katie. Just go get food. And I felt so badass about getting that nice little landing hit in the face. Again, this is not canon, but that's how TK dies.
You guys want to hang around here all day, or get out of here? It's over. We're going home.
Oh, so cute. Like I think it's always meant to be like a thing, and they never go out and say that like that happens. Plus, this whole thing is not canon, but I definitely get the implication that they're throwing out there. All right, so guys, so that's it. I'm just gonna let the credits roll. Thanks for watching. I think the next thing I'm gonna be doing is Final Fantasy IX. I got a friend who's played that game like 20 times, and he is just like an expert on it. So I feel like I'd bring him in and see how that goes. We've already filmed a little bit. It was a blast. Definitely a little bit better than just doing this on my own. It's a little bit slower of a game though. I have less technical details, and I'm really just curious to see how that goes and how this comes out. I think, like looking back on it, I think what I'll do is I'll go back to editing things a little bit more heavily. And I'm going to do, I think the way I'm going to do it is I'll do live commentary, but I'm going to edit out like loading screens and stuff, because I felt that in theory the post commentary is better and higher quality, but it really just like kind of wears me out, honestly. Having to do like, okay, I have to talk about Dead Rising for 3 hours now. And I felt like that just kind of like hurt it. Plus with Dead Rising 2 in general, I felt like I just, between the two games, I kind of said everything that needs to be said. And I could just like, I wanted to keep it kind of serious. Like I don't want to turn this into like the Master Run stuff into a show all about me. But then again, I don't almost want a bunch of dead time or just dumb comments just to fill air. So I'm going to take a different approach with that one and see how things work. I'm just still trying to work out a format. Overall, I think I'm going to run 3 main shows. They're going to be Master Run, One Run, and Drinking Game. So we'll see how that goes. Drinking Games, obviously drinking games. One Run is like challenge runs, similar to like right now I'm doing the one for Dead Rising 1 where I try and get through the entire game without a single zombie kill. And then Master Run's going to be kind of what this series is, so check those out if you want, or tell me any game you think would be good for it. I would definitely be open to doing some stuff I haven't played before. I think overall One Run is going to be my go-to series for like day-to-day stuff, and then I'm only going to put out a Master Run if I actually feel that it is something worth doing and doing well. And tell me just how you thought the run went. Do you prefer for me to be a little bit more like loose with it? Because a lot of this stuff like doesn't need a very high like amount of skill. Like in theory, I could have everything set up so I do it like repeat it over and over and get like perfect times. I never forget anything. But I feel like that's really not necessary with Dead Rising. Same with like you could easily probably have a setup where you could do perfect psychopath fights, but usually I win them by such a margin anyway. I feel like it's a little bit more entertaining to watch rather than me doing just like a very strict, literal, like, you need this weapon, this weapon, this weapon. Stand here, attack them like this, watch out for these patterns. That's not, I don't think, is entertaining to watch, and I don't think anyone needs that info, because I think it's pretty easy to recreate yourself. But I can do it, like, with Dead Rising 1, there's certain points where I was trying to go very literal. Like, if you go back and watch my very first Food Court Carlito video for the Psychopaths, I was, like, very literal, like, here's, like, several different approaches you can take, here's what you want to do, what food you want, what weapon you want, here's high-level strategies, here's low-level strategies. But realistically, he's the easiest boss in the game. Most players are going to go in and like kill him in one shot with whatever weapon they have. So I felt like it was a little bit more relaxed. And it's going to depend a lot on what game I want. So tell me if you want that, or do you want something looser? Like, as long as I cover everything in the game, do you want me to just like, hey, let's just like talk about the story more? I could do a bunch of background research and just maybe play the game and focus more on talking about what's happening. There's a lot of really cool little small details I didn't know about until I did this. I think my classic go-to is how like Carlito dies. In Dead Rising 1, Carlito dies in a meat processing plant, which if you know his backstory is actually really kind of relevant and cool. But I never thought about it. I just thought like, oh, they just wanted to butcher enemies, so that's where they put him. So, yeah, tell me what you think, guys, and hey, thanks for watching. It really means a lot anytime I hear you guys comment on anything. It really does help and helps me move forward as a YouTuber and a channel. Don't take your Dead Rising for granted.